The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
You can lift your weights, you can run your miles, but you ain't got what's been earned through trials. It ain't in the gym, ain't in the use, it's in busting knuckles and hard-lived truth. Back's been sore since 99, but I still stack wood and I'll still outgrind. Call me slow, call me old, but I got hands that could bend pure gold. Ain't about muscle, ain't about speed, it's about the fire when the time comes to lead. You can talk real tough, you can flex real wide, but when it's time to dig in, boys, step aside. Old man strength, built to last, years of work, no need for class. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt, you don't know tough till you've been worn out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Old Man Strength, a podcast brought to you by the Three Beards Media Network. Broadcast live from the AKC Andrew Downs Marketing Studios and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company, Dan Douglas at Greenberry Realty, and Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. That's a lot. Now I can take a breath and finish and say, my name is Chris. I'm your host. I'm normally joined by Aaron Wall, but that loser's in Ireland going to see the Cyclones play. I'm not at all jealous whatsoever. So I brought our marketing genius, fellow podster, if she ever decides to do another one, and overall great lady, Amy Addison. Thanks for joining me and joining in tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I think you're more than just a little bit jealous of Aaron being in Ireland.
I won't be if we lose that game because I'll be pissed off. I'll be so mad at the money that I spent. Everybody keeps asking me, how come you didn't go? And I was like, because I went to Kansas City last year and we lost that game, and that didn't cost me a fraction of the money, and I was miserable all the way home. So,
People ask me why I went to go watch Iowa in the Big Ten championship when we were playing against Michigan. They're like, you're gonna lose. Well, that's not why I went. It was still a fun time. It was still great. Yeah, we didn't win that game, but we scored. So
I can.
we'll just go with it, okay?
I can look back and enjoy the trip, but at the time on the way home for 2.5 hours, I was a miserable piece of person to be around. I was not happy. I invest too much into 18 to 22-year-old kids. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Problem. That's my problem. So, well, how you been?
Good. Busy.
Yeah.
Yep, traveling a lot.
I saw that. Went to Mexico, took a cruise.
Yep.
No cruise?
With the family.
Did the bathroom stay working?
Yes, thankfully. And I did not watch Poop Cruise before we went.
I've got this girl at work. She's a regional manager. And we got to talking. We were in Vegas for a conference and we were talking about cruises. And she's like, I absolutely will never go on a cruise. Like the water has, the ocean has so many deep, scary things that I want no part of that. And then I found this poop cruise thing and I texted it to her. I said, you got to watch this show. So now like that's our inside joke is we talk about the poop cruise all the time and how I want to send her on a cruise.
I never wanted to go on a cruise. I was like, nope, not my thing, not for me. And then the whole family was going. I was like, fine, whatever. And Yeah, I'm gonna go on another cruise. It was actually fun. So,
I would go. I would go if I didn't have to take my kids. I don't.
yeah.
I'm to the point now where I don't want to be in a cramped area with all my kids. So,
Yep.
uh, my adult kids can pay for their own rooms because I am not taking them. So
No, multiple
but
rooms,
it
definitely.
is what it is. So
Hmm.
well, I am super excited. Full disclosure: Rob Taylor from Revelton Distilling Company is going to get made fun of quite a bit on this podcast tonight because he was supposed to be our co-host. Because him and I have a kind of a kindred friendship with our guest. This very talented lady went to high school with Rob and I. She is extremely well known in our high school class. Well, much more than I am. I can tell you that. It's hard to believe. I know, right? But what I'd like to do is welcome Amy Blair to the show. Amy, I'm gonna pull you in here, and then I want you to give me just a couple minutes here because I want to give you a proper introduction here. So, um, but for our listeners, Amy's book that she's writing will be released in September. So we'll want to be sure to keep an eye out for that. We'll drop links in the show notes when we get that. Um, but for sure, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. Again, we went to high school, so it's kind of a reunion and an interview all in one. She's lived an extraordinary and at times heartbreaking life. She's written a book called A Grief Resume, as she calls it, that takes us through the loss she's endured and the lessons she's learned along the way. But what's amazing is how she's found ways to blend humor, love, and even advocacy in the story. So the conversation, I hope, will be about resilience and love and strength, of course. We're excited to hear it. So, Amy Blair, thank you very much for joining Old Man Strength.
Well, thanks for having me. This is really exciting, Chris. It's great to see you. And Amy, it's awesome to meet you as well. So I'm really excited that you guys asked me to come and do this. And we'll kind of delve into a little bit of what's been going on over the past 3 years.
Yeah, we reconnected a couple years ago on Facebook, and then as Amy One knows, I lost my Facebook page for some copyright stuff through Three Beards Media, so I had to rebuild my Facebook page, and was sending requests, and most of the people were like, "Aren't we already friends?" So I was glad that you accepted that friend request twice. Most people don't do that.
Everything
I
is a
thought about
scam
not doing it.
anymore. Yeah, everything is a scam anymore. So
Right?
you
I
never
know.
know.
Well,
Mhm.
I will tell you that if scammers are trying to pass themselves off as me, they really need some help. So they need a lot of help. Amy, is what we normally do on this show is this show started off with me and a former co-host always talking about my dad and the way we grew up and things like that. So that's how we like to start this show. So for our listeners who may not know, can you start by telling us where you grew up and a little bit about your family?
Absolutely. So I am from the south side of Des Moines. I grew up in Greenfield Plaza in Des Moines. Um, my dad actually was a kind of a bit of a south side legend, and many people knew who he was. He was a very popular person. He was a barber and was a fireman, part of air rescue over at the airport. He was a man named Leo Ward, and he did the St. Patrick's Day parades every year, Grand Marshal. Dressed up in his green Irish suit, very Irish, very talkative, had friends everywhere, loved a parade, had many parade vehicles, would just crash any parade that was, he knew was going on. He didn't care if it was Pride. He didn't care if it was the Norwalk Little League. He would show up with one of his parade vehicles and be in a parade. Every Saturday or Sunday that he woke up, he was just like, where is a parade that I can go to? My dad was really unique. I've had many people throughout my entire life come to me and say, I was really good friends with your dad, and I'm going to tell you a story about him. And they'll launch into a story that I know. And my dad would have had a way different way of telling the story than these people. My dad was a gifted storyteller. He was a guy who did not pronounce all of his words correctly. He would say things like, your sister's favorite band, the Beagles, are on TV tonight. And I'd be like, well, it's not the Beagles, Dad, but you're close. And I inherited a little bit of that because I always, I'm like now searching for words and I just say the first word that pops in my head. But my dad gave a lot of advice throughout the years to many, many kids in Greenfield Plaza. His garage door was always open with a beer full of a fridge full of beer. And like all the Doffenbach kids and the Foster's kids and the hall kids would all come into my dad's garage and steal beer all the time. And he would just be like, he would just keep filling it back up. He didn't care. But my dad always had a good story for everything. And when he died in 2021. He was 91 years old.
Wow.
He walked into Keanu's, ordered a tall boy, sat down at the card table, told the guys to deal him in. About an hour into his card game, coughed twice, boom, went down. And so went down with most of his beer inside of his belly, had the fire department across the street. All of his fire buddies were there trying to bring him back. But, he couldn't have written it any better the way he left it. And when he died, the South Side threw a parade for him. And so, I was going to the parade and I had to stop by a gas station, and I stopped in and I was getting some things, and I was like, I need more candy. I'm in a parade. And he was like, what parade are you in? I was like, it's my dad. My dad died and they're doing a parade for him. Well, who is your dad? Leo Ward. Well, what did he do? Nothing. He was just popular. He's just a popular guy. People love him. They're just doing a parade for him. So I was really raised by one of the best. And I know a lot of people always think that they were raised by the best. And then we always, end that with like, but I really was raised by the best. I really was raised by the best. And so that's kind of like who I was raised by. My mother was very ill my entire life. And so she was a nurse, but she got super sick when I was young. And so my dad was my main parent in the home. But she still definitely gave her opinions. But my dad was the main parent. And just for example, when it was time to do the sex talk at school, my mom was in the hospital and my dad had to do the sex talk before I went to the sex talk. And I was sitting on my bedroom floor and he opened the door and he threw 2 extension cords on me. And he just went, that's the male side. That's the female side. Put those together and take them apart a few times. You're going to have a talk about tomorrow in school. And that was my sex talk. So raised by one of the best, South Side. Yeah, barber.
Where did he cut hair at? Where was this at on the South Side?
So he actually owned his own barbershop when I was born in 71. So my dad was actually born in 1929.
Okay.
They were in their 40s when they had me. I was
your
surprised.
Dad was almost 14 years older than or 12 years older than my dad.
Yeah.
I thought my dad was old.
Yeah, I know. My dad was old. And so he had a barbershop called Leo's. It tanked after I was born. And so he kind of went on some hard times, but he did Moreland's and Roland's were his two, Dick Moreland and Ron Hensel, Ron's barbershop. Mm-hmm. Those were his big ones over like on Indianola. And then the other one was on Army Post Road.
Okay.
So, yeah. But he was the worst barber in Des Moines. He could only do crew cuts. And so if you ever want anything else, you weren't doing it. But he was very proud of his continuing education and his license because he would claim that he could also give tattoos and do cosmetology, although he had never been trained in anything like that. But that's what that license, if he wanted to be a cosmetologist, he could walk into any, Sephora and show them his license. So that was Leo Ward. That was a little bit of him. Mm-hmm. But I was the youngest of 6. And so they had 5 kids within 7 years, and then they waited 8-9 years, and surprise, I came along. So
you and I have a little bit in common then, because there was a big gap between me and my siblings as well. What was that like for you growing up? You had older siblings, so they were probably on and doing bigger things, and you were still young at home. So I would imagine you probably had a lot of time with just your mom and dad.
Yeah. So by the time I was 2, my oldest sister was out of the house. And I actually did not even really know who she was because she went to Germany and things like this until I was probably 9. Like I really did not know that, who my oldest sister was for quite a while. But for me, even now, I look at them and they had different parents than I did. Even though we had the same mom and dad, we had different parents. And so they got the fun and the young and the poor and the fighting and all the vacations. I got the tired, we have more money, so you don't have to ask for anything. If I when it was time for me to get a phone in my room, a phone just appeared in my room with my own line. I didn't have to ask for it. They would give me money and just be like, go to the movies, please, take a friend, get out. I got a car when it was time to get, when got my license. I didn't have to ask. It was just given to me, but they were very tired. And like I said, my mom was ill. And so I lived with a sick mom my whole life. So it was very much, and you may be able to relate to this, living like an only child for your entire childhood. And then you become an adult, and these people who have already gone on and made families, are suddenly like, well, I'm your sister and we're going to go, plan this wedding together or whatever was going to happen. And I found myself to be closer when I was younger, closer maybe to even my nephews and nieces, or my niece and my nephews, than I was to my own siblings for quite a while. It took a while for me to rebuild my sibling relationships as we got older. Definitely. But we're there. The ones that are left.
I certainly can relate to that. My sister that's closest to me is 8 years older, and
me too.
She had a baby when she was like 15. So she married and was gone. So I was 7 by the time everybody was out of the house. My parents were a little younger, and I think it was easier for me because my parents didn't have 4 kids in the house to feed at that point. It was just me, and they had more time and more money, and I was the first kid to go to college. So of course I was spoiled, and I was, I think for my family, there was a lot of resentment for that for me. You know what I mean? But I then turn around and go, I didn't choose to get pregnant when I was 15 either. So, they had every opportunity that I did. But yeah, I don't have a super close relationship with some of them now as it is. But kind of the same thing. I was an only child, and my parents lost a child when he was 3. My mom was pregnant with me. It was a little boy. And I've always felt like I was raised differently to that as well. I always felt like maybe I was a gift to mom and dad to make up for Cass passing away. And I think they really raised me very close and very protective and things like that. And I sometimes wonder how my life would have been different if Cass wouldn't have passed away.
Yeah. How many siblings did you have total?
4. I have 3 older sisters and then an older brother who passed away. So, yep. Okay. Yeah. So
he was your only brother.
He was, and I do sometimes. I mean, never met him in my life, but I always wondered what it would be like to have an older brother. So when Josh and Jordan are always arguing, I pull out the dad move and go, "You guys don't know what it's like. I wish I had a brother to argue with." So
right.
But what kind of kid were you?
I was pretty my imagination was pretty big. I was a dreamer. I really did believe I was going to marry like River Phoenix. I really did think that I could somehow.
Mr. Blair know that? Does he know that?
Yes. Oh yeah. If River Phoenix, if I could just figure out a way to like have met him, I really did think that I could marry him. I really did think that I was going to go to college and I was going to be this great big journalist, and I was going to have 8 children, and I was going to weigh 120 pounds, and I was going to somehow have the money that I always wanted, and I was going to be happy. I really was. I was a dreamer that just really in the end, all I really ever wanted was to be a mom and to have this happy life. But I was adventurous. I don't know if you know who the Doffenbaugh family are. Some of the people listening are. They were directly, behind me. And so they had 8 kids, and they did not have, a lot as far as like money and things like that. But they were everything that I didn't have in my home was at the Doffenbaughs. So I was always with one of them, and we would, walk the ice over at the fort, on the lake, which you should never do, children, ride our bikes everywhere, get chased by dogs. We were, Chris Doffenbaugh, who was in our class, was my best friend. And so we did a lot together. I was in high school, though. I would have never drank. I would have never smoked. I would have never done drugs. I was knew that I had addictive personalities already, I think, at that young of an age. I steered clear of that, but I loved everybody, no matter if they were if they were involved in that kind of a scene or not. I got along with everybody. Honestly, I was, I think I was a comedic relief for a lot of people in my life. And I don't think that that's really ever left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy,
But Southside. I was a
that's
Southside
right.
girl. I was a good Catholic girl, Southside, but a little bad. But I'll tell you, every bad thing I've ever done, I did it totally sober. I remember every single thing I've done. Every single thing.
I didn't realize I converted to Catholicism 12 years ago when I met my wife. So I did not realize that you were Catholic, but I totally get the you got to own up to it and just, what are you going to do? So
Yeah,
I
Mr.
can't
Blair.
say the same that I was sober and didn't drink. I can't say the same thing back then.
No. Mr. Blair, they tried really hard to convert him to Catholicism when we were only 21 and 22, and we had to do the 6-week Catholic couple. And so we got assigned a Catholic couple, and they were at the end of the 6 weeks were to tell the priest if they thought that we should get married or if they thought we shouldn't get married. And we showed up in the priest's house, and he was like, well, they've given me the report and they want me to highly encourage you to put the wedding off for a couple of years because Michael doesn't speak and you're a bully. And I was like, I was like, what? I went, my mom has already paid you for the ceremony. I was like, my mom has already got the invitations out. It was all about my mom. My mom has already done all these things. And I'm getting married next Saturday. It was 1 week before the wedding.
Oh
and
my
he
God.
was just he was like this. He was like, it was, and I'll tell who it was. Father Dave at Christ the King. And he put his hand up and he went, I'm going to marry you, Amy. It's not, he goes, this is just a suggestion that they don't think that you're ready. And then he took us into separate rooms and he asked us one question, and it's always stayed with me forever. And that was, do you understand that this is forever and that forever is a long time? And I honestly, especially even over these past 3 years, I have gone back to so many things that people have said to me throughout my lifetime. But Father Dave asking me, do you know that this is forever and forever is a long time, has stuck with me more than almost anything that anybody has said. Because with everything that we have been through in the past 3 years, especially, that forever has been tested more deeper and a rubber band, stretching of our marriage than any other test we've ever had.
And how long have you been married?
We've been married, it'll be 32 years this year.
See, it would have been 30 had you waited. Had you
I
waited
know, right? I know.
Sometimes those people don't know what they're talking about.
They don't. He didn't. Yeah, the Catholic couple. I don't blame Father Dave. He's still the entire time doing the service. You could see him looking at me like, I really don't want to be doing this, but your mom did pay me. But it was, he was not pleased. But it was really the Catholic couple, and I honestly believe that I am so talkative, and I would talk over him. I'm sure at the time, I have even learned how to rein it in since I was 22. But I think I probably talked so much and did so much that those people did not see that the secret of the marriage was Michael Blair. That the secret of the marriage was that he could put his hand on my knee to calm me. That he could give me a look like, bring it down, you're getting a little bit too high. I think that he gets, my dad would always say, when people get to know you, you're the charmer, but Michael is the gift. And I do think that there is a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So
when Stacy and I were first dating and we were going to church, one of the deacons had come up to us and asked if we would be interested in counseling people that wanted to get married, somewhere in what that capacity was. And Stacy and I started to laugh, and we were like, well, I think we should probably be married first before we do that, right? And he was like, oh yeah, that's probably a prerequisite. So, but
yeah,
we had to go
Don't
through
put the gun.
we had to go through a little different process because we were both married before. So, and I wasn't Catholic when I was married before, so we both had to take an annulment,
Yes.
and that's a process that um, will really make you think about your choices and really make you think about your mistakes and really make you be honest about who you were as a husband and a wife and things like that. And I remember we had to write all this stuff out, and I remember like telling Stacy, I was like, well, first of all, we got to pay for this annulment. Like, you have to pay the church to do this.
Yeah.
That seems like a scam. Number one. Number two, what if we pay all this and they go, well, sorry, we don't think you should get an annulment, and then we can't get married in the Catholic Church? Like, and I remember talking to Father John, who might be the most liberal priest I've ever met, by the way. I love Father John. Father John's like, that's not how it works. He's
Yeah.
like, this is what's going to happen. Either you, and then my ex-wife, they asked my ex-wife to write
Yes.
her stuff.
Yes.
Which I thought, man, that's not going to go over well, right?
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
And I said, what happens like if they read this stuff and they decide? And he's like, that won't happen. He said, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to write your version of the story, and she's going to write her version of the story, and they're going to read them, and they're going to be completely opposite, and they're going to go, these people were never on the same boat to begin with. That was never going to work.
Right.
Or you're both going to have the same story. And they're going to go, yeah, they both see it the same way. It was never going to work. And I really, truly believe that annulment process is not, I don't think, is really a religious aspect to it. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not the greatest Catholic as there is, but I really do think it's designed to really make you think about the mistakes that you made and be honest and open to yourself if you do it right, and look at yourself and say, I had a hand in a failure of a marriage, and you need to make sure that you don't do that again.
Right. Yeah, they're tricky that way. They make you do soul searching without you even knowing you're having to do soul searching.
Yeah, that was a trick. I didn't.
Mm-hmm. They're tricky.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah. Too funny.
Amy, you got to ask questions here. See, part of the co-host is you jump in and ask questions. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going to.
I was like, I'm supposed to ask questions. I thought.
No, I don't even know which Amy is which. I got to figure out I'm going to have to figure out a different name.
So yeah, I can talk a little bit though about my book.
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh,
we'll
okay. I'm jumping the gun. All
That's right. That's right. We'll get to that.
Maybe
we'll get to that. Let me ask you one more question.
Okay, let me hear it, hon.
Let's have a little bit of fun with this question.
Okay.
What's one memory from high school that still makes you laugh when you think about it?
So one time, it was Christmas.
Boy, that was
time.
quick. She was able to pull this up
She
quick.
knew.
Oh, I have many.
Man.
I have many. But one time it was Christmas time, and Chris and I were about 16, and I was driving down Fleur, and we were passing Wakanda Christian Church. And I looked over, and they had this beautiful nativity. And so we pulled in to take a look at this nativity. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I said, I have an idea. And so I stole the baby Jesus out of the nativity of Wakanda Christian Church. Gave it to Chris. We put it in my car. We drive over to County Line, where there's a church over there, like the Church of the Nazarene or something. They also had an amazing nativity. So we got out and we took their baby Jesus, but we put Wakanda's baby Jesus back into the nativity of theirs. And then we took the Church of the Nazarene over to Wakanda, and we put their baby Jesus back into their nativity. And that was like that for 20 years. We would drive by and we'd be like, oh my God, I just passed by the church. It's still the wrong nativity. It's still the wrong baby Jesus. We did this until we were like in our mid 30s, and they finally had like new stuff that came out at Wakanda. But for 20 years, we would like stop and be like, yep, that's the Church of the Nazarene's baby Jesus still in there, Chris. So there, that was always like something that makes me laugh. Like, that's what I'm saying. I was a good Catholic girl. But yeah, I like to have like good, clean fun.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
All right, we're going to take our first break. Go ahead,
I
Amy.
want to know how often you tell that story. Like,
not often. I actually never tell that one. I do have like a slew of stories that I am that are like my one-time stories is what I call them. And I will tell them at the drop of a hat, and I can recite it. I used to work at the Funny Bone. I would do comedy clubs back in the mid 90s and stuff. And so I definitely have like stories that I keep in my backpack. That one I don't tell often because, I'm a thief in there. I did a bad thing.
I want somebody from Church of the Nazarene in Wakanda to
Well, my
listen to
sister,
this.
my sister joined Wakanda at one time, and I did go up to the Reverend. Like we went up to my husband and I. We went to one of the Christmas Eve masses, and I was just like, "You guys have a really nice nativity out there." And he was like, "Thank you. I think that it's pretty nice too." And I was like, "Does the baby Jesus? Is it always look like that?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, the baby Jesus looks just fine." Like he did not, have, and I just thought, do they know? Like, was there ever anybody? That's what I'm curious. The people that put it out. Was there anybody during that time that ever thought this baby Jesus just doesn't look right? They did look completely different. That's all. All right.
Maybe in his mind, it has been there the whole time. Maybe he came 19 years ago.
You just because I know.
I've never seen any other baby Jesus other than that one.
Same thing. Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't steal a baby. This is my oldest sister, Jackie. I didn't steal a baby. That's Amy. That's not me. No way. I did once lose my mom's gas cap on her car, and then drove home and let her think she did it because of the medicine she was on, so that I didn't get in trouble. So,
that was interesting.
Yeah. We could tell all kinds of those stories. So, okay, let's go ahead and get a break from our two primary sponsors, and then when we come back, Amy, I want to talk to you about the book.
Okay,
and
good.
The last few years. So let's get a word from Revelton Distilling Company, Rob Taylor and Christy Taylor's wonderful establishment with the best spirits in Iowa. And now you can get those in 42 other states. You some reason still can't ship within the state of Iowa, which is the dumbest story I've ever heard. Rob told me that the other day. You can blame our dumb legislatures in Iowa for that, all of them, because it seems pretty silly. But and then we'll get a word from Greenberry Realty, my friend Dan Douglas, and then we'll come back with Amy Blair.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court.
No basket. Fouls on the floor before the shot. Out of bounds.
Come on! Can you believe that? You can't take that away from me.
That call was absolutely terrible. Are you guys cautiously trying to be this bad? I mean, does your mom not love you?
Have you seen how old my partner is? My back hurts already from carrying him all night. And I've heard enough out of you.
So you're gone.
Fine. Jim, are you blind? Basket's good. We've got a three-pointer. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
That call's so easy, even we can make it.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, and we're back on Old Man Strength, brought to you again by Revelton Distilling Company and Greenberry Realty, and all live from the AKC Andrew Downs Marketing Studio. I'm with my friend Amy Blair, my guest co-host Amy Addison from Hot Miss Happy Hour and multiple other projects here at the Three Beards Media Network. Amy, you've written what you call your grief resume. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to put that story into a book?
So honestly, 3 years, 4 months ago, my husband and I, we lost our 17-year-old daughter, Jillian, to a genetic heart condition that we had just discovered that she had. And when I started, I am a writer by nature. By trade, I am a nurse. But I've always written my whole life. You know, I'm a decent writer. And it's always helped me in the past get out my own feelings, my own therapy. And I thought that I would maybe write a story about Jillian, like an actual story where she was in some kind of a fictional tale that I was, again, you know, imagining in my own head. And when I sat down to write this story, I instead found myself writing about my mom's death. And my mom died when I was 32 years old, and she'd been dying for 22 years of my 32 years of living. And the first part of this book, which will be released like at the end of September, it follows 5 deaths. My mother, my brother Tom, my best friend Chris, my brother John, and my father. The second part of the book will follow Jillian and my sister Kathy, who died within a very short time of each other. But the first part of the book does begin with my years living in Greenfield Plaza, my house in Greenfield Plaza. My father was from a small town called Melrose, Iowa. He has a little tiny house still there that I inherited. The houses in the book are characters in the book. I talk about the town of Melrose as a love story. And I talk about my childhood as really being a very basic, happy childhood that any kid would want, with the best friend who lived in her backyard. When my mom died, I was so expecting my mother's death that honestly, I was 7 months pregnant with my second child, and I didn't have any time to process it. I smoothed right over my mom's death. I did not cry when my mom died. I didn't even have a hiccup in my life, really. I went to my OB appointment 1 week later, and as the nurse was walking out, I went, "Oh yeah, last week my mom died." Like, it was that much. And I don't want to say an afterthought because my mother was an amazing person. But I, for some reason, built up walls immediately when my mom died that I did not let penetrate. So when I went to go sit down to write this book about Jillian, I began with my mother. And from there, it just kind of crescendoed into the rest of the deaths. My brother Tom would have been next. He died of multiple cancers. My brother Tom was the one who was next to me in line. He was the one who was 8.5 years older than I am, and was probably the one that I was the closest to. He died a very sad and lonely death, and it was a hard death to watch. From there, it goes into Chris, because I lost Christoph and Bob Woods, my best friend, to leukemia. And when I say I talk about the deaths, I talk about the deaths. I go through, from my point of view, what it was like for each one of these precious people who were breathing 1 minute to not be breathing the next. And I talk about, because I can only do it, my own point of view of losing that person and kind of what it did to me. And so when I lost Chris at the age of 42, it really felt like my arms had been chopped off. I felt like I lost part of my body. Chris and I were very, very close. We had our children. Each of us had 3 girls. She'd have a girl, I'd have a girl. She'd have a girl, I'd have a girl. And our last 3 are born with almost a year to the day of each one of them. And they all grew up together. We were, our kids' godmothers. Chris and I were more than sisters, almost like twins to a point. And Chris taught me probably more about life besides my parents and my siblings, more about learning how to shut up and learning how to listen and learning how to not get so riled up when somebody hurts you. Chris was an amazing teacher, and Chris was very faith-filled. And watching her die of leukemia, and I say this to people, through the church, I always heard, give it up to God, leave it. I watched that girl put that phrase into a verb, and it was an action verb. And I would watch her every single minute of the day, give her suffering up to God. And I watched her all the way till the moment she took her last breath do this. She was what I call the quiet Doffenbach, but she was such an inspiration to so many people that knew her. And I was really different after Chris died. And unfortunately, Chris's death led right to my brother John's death. And my brother John died of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And he was the first one, he and my nephew were the first ones who I'd ever heard that term, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And when I heard it, it was mispronounced to me. I was told it probably wasn't on my side of the family. I was told it was most likely on my sister-in-law's side of the family. I was told by other doctors, I think that this is just a male-to-male, gene that's transferred, when I figured out that my nephew also had it. I went to the doctor to see if I had it, and, was told over and over again that I did not have it. And then I just lived my life for like the next 5 years. And we moved to Johnston. We had amazing neighbors. We were raising our kids. Life was good again, even though we'd lost these great people. And it was 2013, 2014, 2015, which was Tom, Chris, and John. I thought I had it in my past. I thought that I had lived through the worst, but I didn't even know that it was the appetizer for the main course. So in 2021, my dad walked into the Keanos, dealt himself in, had that sudden cardiac arrest, boom, went down. And when I got to the hospital, because again, fire department's right behind him, they brought him back. And when I got to the hospital, the doctors said, his vitals are amazing. He looks so great, but he's 91, but something has blown out the left side of his heart. I thought it might have been a clot. They didn't know. Nobody said, your father has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. These things looked thick. Nobody said a word. He was 91 and he was old and they couldn't save him. And so we pulled the plug. So that is kind of the first part of the book, all of those. The second part of the book begins with 3 months before April 21st of 2022. And 3 months before April 21st, we had just came back from Disney, where Jillian and my other girls went to Disney, and Jillian ran that park like a boss. None of us could keep up with her. She was 17. She's my youngest. I have 2 other girls, Rosie and Katie. Jillian was in her junior year of Johnston High School. And when I got back from Disney, I had an email from the school reminding me that my junior was going to be a senior and I needed to get her meningitis shot. So I took her into just our family physician, who we've seen for years. She put the stethoscope on Jill's chest, turned around and looked at me and said, when did Jill get this heart murmur? And I said, Jill doesn't have a heart murmur. I barely looked up from my phone. Jill doesn't have a heart murmur.
Right.
And she was like, Jill has a decent heart murmur. And from then, we actually were sent to go get Mercy Peds downtown Des Moines to have an echo. That was a very quiet echo and an hour and a half long echo. And I knew something was wrong. In the meantime, over these, those years from my dad to Jill, over that year, I had AFib. And I had gone to the hospital and been like, do I have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? I think that something's wrong with me. Like my hearts are all, my beats are so weird. And they were just like, no, this is AFib. This is not HCM. So when they came in to give Jill her echo results, that doctor sat down and she looked at Jill and she said, Jill, do you like playing sports? And I fucking knew. I knew then the minute she said those words, oh my God, Jillian's got HCM. And Jill was like, no. And she's like, well, what do you want to be when you get older? And Jill said, I want to be like a graphic designer or an interior designer, some kind of design. And then the doctor looked at me and she goes, have you ever heard the words hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? And I went, what the fuck? I mean, I immediately knew we were in trouble. And I knew from everything that they were drawing out for us that Jill's heart was very thick. Everything was severe. Everything was obstructed. Everything was a problem. And we had to go to specialists. So we were she wanted us there within a week. Within 10 days, we were at the specialists. They took a look at her heart. They had her do some tests. And when we went in for that meeting, they just went, let's pump the brakes. She's young. We've just found out this diagnosis. Let's not get too nervous. Let's just take a moment and breathe with this diagnosis. Everything that Des Moines was telling us, the specialists were telling us, let's just, surgery's a long ways away, they said, There are treatments to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and especially the kind that Jill has. One is an implantable cardiac device to help you in case you do have a sudden cardiac arrest. The defibrillator will go off. It will attempt to restart your heart. You can survive that. And then you can go on to have what's called a myectomy, which is open heart surgery, which my nephew had. And he had already had 2 of them by the time we were sitting at the specialist's office. And then, of course, the last resort that nobody really ever wants to have. There's other little Band-Aids they can do, but the other one is a heart transplant. So they were telling us that we just need to take a breath, that let's get all the information. It will be okay. And so we left the specialist, drove back to Des Moines, and as the couple of weeks went on, prom happened. Jill couldn't make it through prom. She couldn't keep her breath up. I was emailing. It was a whole bunch of back and forth and getting all of the results in from all the testing. And on April 21st, it was the very last test that came in. And I went down at 1 p.m., got the last result. They told me what the results were. And they said, we're not going to be doing a myectomy. And we're not going to put an ICD in right now. We're going to give her some time. Let's all still just take a break and get used to this diagnosis. In a month, we'll reconvene and we'll kind of see if we have a plan at that time. And so Jill drove home from school at 3:30. I sat her down at our island, told her what they said. She was just like, okay, that sounds about right. I kind of thought that I said, we're going to go get a second opinion at the other specialist because I was not pleased. And I had already began that process. She was really happy. She was getting ready to go to work. She had said, I tried to quit my job at Hy-Vee this week, but nobody would answer my phone. So I guess I'm going to work. And I was like, I guess you are. So she watered plants over, part-time on Thursdays. She ran up the stairs. The next day we were going to Omaha to see John Mulaney. And, John Mulaney was doing a comedy thing there. So we'd bought tickets for all the kids and we were all going to go. And she turned around and she went to go run up the stairs and she said, I'm so excited to see John Mulaney, and ran up the stairs with a smile on her face. And I went outside my sliding glass doors to go pick up dog poop, walked around the outside, waved to the neighbors, waved to the neighbor on my other side. It was a gorgeous day. I came around the corner of our garage. I saw our 12-year-old neighbor across the street playing ball with himself, catching it. And there was Jill's car still in the driveway. And I was like, why isn't she left? I looked at my watch. She had 5 minutes to get to work. And I was like, she's not down here. So I called her from the garage. No answer. I walked into the house. I threw my phone on the table and went up the stairs. And as I went up the stairs, I glanced into her room and I could see her feet were on the floor. From that moment on, it's chaos. You're screaming her name. I'm giving her, compressions. I didn't even think she's down from HCM. I was checking her body. Where are the drugs? What has she been doing? What's going on? What did I not know about my kid? And as I'm screaming her name, her window is open just a tiny bit. And that 12-year-old Silas across the street heard me screaming. And he could tell by the way that I was screaming that something was wrong, because he and I had a really great relationship. And instead of running away, he ran towards my house. I didn't have a phone, and so I had to leave Jill. And when I hit the top of my stairs, Silas was opening up my door. And I said, Silas, go across the street and grab your mom and tell her to get the AED, because his mom sold AEDs and did demonstrations. And she had one all packed up right by the door, ready to go. So by the time I turned around with my phone, his mother, Christy, was already down my driveway. She was already getting the pads on Jill. We did as much as we could do. We got the help as fast as we could get it. She was probably down, I would guess, for 7 minutes, maybe 8, before the pads hit her. Her heart did try to come back. She had a couple of good blips, but she died right there on her bedroom floor. And so from then on, I always say to people, when I came around the corner and I saw her, I saw 2 Jills in that room. I saw Jill on the ground, but then I saw another Jill who was standing up next to Jill. And she kind of had her hands clutched against her chest, like she was surprised. And I slid in next to Jill's body. I slid in through that other Jill. And when I did, she disappeared. And it's like I slid into an alternate reality that I can't get back over to my other reality. Somehow with that slide, it all changed. My entire life, everything I ever wanted since I was a kid, this happy life, all these kids, all this, never was I ever going to wear 120 pounds. I had accepted that, but for anybody to take one of my kids, that was not acceptable. I had accepted them to take my mom, my dad, my brother, my other brother, my sister, my best friend, but my kid, very, very difficult thing to accept. Very weird alternate reality to suddenly be living in. And so from there, it begins a nightmare that is the rest of your life. Every single day that we wake up, we are without Jill. Every single day that we wake up, we are the parents of 2 children, 2 girls and 1 angel. We don't get to get the other portion back, no matter who says they're sorry, no matter who says they would do something different, no matter how much you hang yourself up for the things that you didn't get, for the red flags that you missed, for all of the things that you go back in and do. Nothing that you're going to do is going to bring her back. Your life is completely different, and now you have to decide to continue moving on. So the rest of the book, 5 months later, my sister had a sudden cardiac arrest and died before she went to bed. It was September 22nd, the day before Jill's 18th birthday. And my sister said to me that day, we were going to rent a movie theater out because Harry Styles' Don't Worry Darling was playing. And when Jill had found out that Don't Worry Darling was going to be playing, she said, everybody knows where I'm going to be for my birthday. Everybody knows on my 18th birthday, I'm at Harry's movie. So we rented the theater out. We invited all of her friends. And the day before that it happened, my sister said to me, I don't want to go to this movie. I don't want to have to be there with Jill with spirit. I want to be with Jill. No, she's not happy. She's not having a happy heavenly birthday. And that night, 2 hours before Jill's birthday, my sister had a sudden cardiac arrest, died. And that was the end of that. She got to be with Jill for her birthday. Timing is a really weird thing. Timing has been very strange this whole time. No matter if it's Jill and having it be getting the test, back that day, and that's the test that they were waiting on to make a decision, whether it is my sister saying those words to me and having, her leave us that night. Timing is a bizarre thing, and it has been 3 years now, 4 months. And the book really is about going through and talking with therapists, people who have also lost children. How did they survive it? How can we survive it? Because you go to places when this happens that you know are possible to get you into another world. You make pacts with your husband or your wife not to kill yourself for the day. I'm not, if you don't kill yourself, I'm not going to kill myself. Somehow we're going to get through today. You listen to people give you the worst advice in the world and say the things to you that you can't even believe they're saying to you about your child who's not here. And then you hear people who say the most amazing things to you. And then you have the people who don't say anything to you. You get it all. You get the stupid, you get the amazing, and you get the silence. The silence is always the worst. You can always, the good things are a gift. The stupid you can forgive and make fun of later, usually. But it is a constant. Every single day, it's still an adventure. So the book does go through. Then obviously, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, as were a lot of my siblings, many of my cousins, nephews who didn't know that they had it. So my family was getting tested, and the specialist tested them for free, and we were able to really take advantage of that. And so my family now had the knowledge that they had this gene that our parents had been, spewing out to us. And so now it was, I did go to work for the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association and trying to be an advocate, a nurse navigator to people who are brand new diagnosed with HCM, or people who've had it forever, who have changes in their disease process that they have to need some navigation. Should they get an ICD? Should they, get a myectomy? And then from there, I have gone to DC and talked about the Children's Cardiac Safety Act, and talked with our representatives. I've done this a couple of times now. Jill's story is always in the forefront. We do talk about it very openly, and I want her name to be said. I want her story to be told. I do know, and because I've seen it and I believe it, she's out there saving lives every single day. Every time that we're able to share her story or tell a new representative about her story, we're able to give some kind of awareness to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, but also other genetic heart conditions. Honest to God, and people say this all the time, they're like, don't, be good and be nice and tell your people that you love them, because you never know what tomorrow brings. 1 minute she was there and I blinked and she was gone. And that's exactly how it went down. And it can actually happen to anybody. Nobody is immune of any kind of these things. And I have been lucky enough that, even people from our high school, Chris, that I have been able to, who I already was friends with, but I forged even a better bond because they have lost children and they have been able to honestly help me and show me and Michael how marriages can survive it, because so many marriages don't survive it. When the night that it happened, Katie came to Michael and I and said, please don't get divorced. And we were like, Jesus Christ, this just happened. What her brain was already jumping to all sorts of scary things that, that we weren't going to survive this. So it is a deep dive book, but there are things in there that, are humorous. There are things in there that are going to piss you off. There are things in there that I make you question me. I make you question things that you think that you would have done if you were her mother, because I question them. And it is not lost on me that, because I speak with people all the time, that even though they're kind, everybody's kind. Everybody's very good to us. We lost our kid with privilege. We lost our kid with lots of love, with lots of people around us. Our kid died in privilege. She wasn't running for her life. She wasn't murdered. She wasn't in a desert. You know, my kid went like that. The only thing that I think about is in that last moment of Jill's 3 seconds of life, she either said or she thought one word, and that was mom. Because I was the only one in the house. I was the only one she could have called for. It was me. There are so many things that you as a parent will put yourself on the hook for, and I don't gloss over it. So when people read this, it really is geared for anybody who has had grief, from your mother to your brother, to your best friend, to your father, to your sister. But it is very much geared to parents who have lost a child and who can't figure out why they feel the way that they feel. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a therapist, but it is my account of how we have made it to this point. And all of the bad that we did, all of the mistakes that we made, and all of the things that people have said to us to try to make us feel better. You count your blessings. You're so lucky. Thank you. I should go out and buy a lottery ticket. You know, it's and it's always from good. You know, don't kill yourself, because if you kill yourself, you're not going to go to heaven where she is anyway. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, and again, it's just people who they love you and they're trying to say something.
They don't know what to say.
They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, when you're standing in front of two people who just lost their kid, there isn't anything to say.
No.
You're not going to be able to say the right things. And you can just stand there and just, you know, say you're sorry. You can come back in a month or 2 months. You know, don't leave these people alone. Don't think that they don't want help. We needed every single person, and we had a lot, and we needed all of them.
I think about, I don't remember the situation where I heard it, where when tragedy strikes and you have such a tragic death, you have so much outpouring of support and love and caring. But at some point, the people that are giving you that begin to start to live their life again, because they have to continue to live their life. And there you are, still in the same state every day, every day, every day. And that's very hard and very difficult. I mean, throughout the last 30 minutes of you telling the story, I've had so many questions and comments that I would make. I guess the first one I would make is that I think that every parent that is a good parent, that loves their children and loves their family, will always question whether or not they've done a good job. I think if you're a parent and you sit back and you go, I did everything right and it's not my fault. And maybe I'll offend some people with this. You're not a very good parent. I question my parenting skills when it comes to my oldest every day. And with my other kids. So I think that's just a sign of a parent that truly does that knows that the job is never done, regardless of how old your kids are. I'll also say that my parents lost a child as well. My brother, and we talked a little bit about this before, my brother put a bag over his head. My mom was outside doing something, came in, found him dead on the floor. And I remember my mom was pregnant with me. I'm 54 years old. My dad died 3 weeks before my wedding to Stacy. And I remember we were in the room when he passed away. And the very first thing that came out of my mom's mouth, the very first thing, was, he gets to see my baby before me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, you never stop thinking about that. Mm-hmm. That was the first reaction that she had, was that she was not jealous, but that he got to see Cass and she didn't. So I just can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah. I told Michael the other day, as I said, when we were first married, I used to always be like, I'm going to outlive you. And again, like you're going to outlive me. And I, whatever, I'll go first. I don't want you to, but now I've like reversed it. I want him to die first. I want him to die first because he will be able to get to see her first. And I will have to live in the pain. And I say that because I don't want him to live in the pain. The pain, it really is like from The Princess Bride, to the death, no, to the pain. It is.
Don't quote that movie on this pod because I don't care for that movie. It's not a good movie.
Well, that just means that there's something seriously wrong with you, Chris. Which you have the trashiest
that's a whole
takes.
thing.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's
Gotcha.
an amazing movie. So you just.
But it is very much to the pain. Like when you guys get married, one of you is going to lose the other one, and you're going to have to live the rest of your lives without that person. And you're going to have to live whatever they didn't get to see. You're going to have to see it. You're going to have to feel it. You're going to have to go through it without them. It really is a painful thing to really think about, that we do these things to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I will say, and it's going to say real fast, I will say I did have a moment after my sister died. And I write about it in the book, and I call it "And the Holy Spirit." And I went into a church at a ceremony that Chris's sister Michelle Bastian invited me to, and in that room, you'll have to read about it; it's too long. But in that room, God said my name in front of about 300 people. He called my name out. My name was specifically said by a stranger who I had never met before, and amazing things happened in that room. But I was taken to a priest that night. And when I was sitting across from the priest, he said to me, if Jesus had came down in that moment when you gave birth to Jillian and said, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to give this one away. She's way too good. I'm going to take her now. And you protested and said, no, you can't take it. You can't. And he said, okay, let me make a deal. Either I can take her right now and you don't have to love her anymore, or you can get her for 17 years and I'm still coming back to get her. What would you choose? And I said, I take the 17 years. So that's kind of what that reminds me of. You take the love, even though you know it's going to cause pain. You still choose the love in the end.
Mm-hmm.
We're dumb people like that.
Yeah.
We're just dumb. We make these creatures thinking nothing bad is going to happen to them like that. We give birth to them and we don't think, well, this baby might die. You think about kindergarten and high school and marriages and college and babies for them. You don't think car accidents,
right?
Suicides, fentanyl. You don't think those things.
Yeah. We have a couple more breaks, but I do want to ask you, you talk about the book and are so open about the other things, but you say it's also a love story when it comes to Mr. Blair. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that is the whole thing in the end. That forever is a long time. It is forever, really, with the good and the bad. You take those vows at 21 and 22 and you have no idea what you're doing. But I'm going to tell you, from the time that the priest told me that, to the time my dad told me I was the charmer and Mr. Blair was the gift, to watching him be a father to each one of those girls and watching him go through what we went through with Jillian, I would rather take it and go through it any time to not see him go through what he's gone through, and vice versa. We are now bonded in a way we wish we weren't. We wish we did not even understand what this kind of being married this closely means. It's a horrible way to be married. And yet there is a beauty in it. And there is a strength in it that you never even knew was inside of you. That almost solidifies your marriage. You almost take vows all over again, but they're different vows. You become so protective of your marriage, and you become protective of people who want to give you their love and advice towards your marriage during these things. But I always say, Mr. Blair and I, we lost the same person in our life. we each lost a daughter. She was the same exact person, same exact everything. And we're always on a different page of it. We never grieve the same way. And that's okay. He can be on one page. I'm on a completely different page. We get it. We merge when we need to. We get out of each other's way when we need to. And it is, as you read the book, you will see that the love that we both have for each other throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. Amy, do you have any questions before we move to our next segment?
Yeah. No. Yes and no.
She's the best in the business, people. Let me tell you.
Go me. I just want to point out I had an hour to prepare for this.
That's
okay,
true.
so
Rob,
I had 1
totally
hour.
Rob's fault.
over there just drinking the Rebelton, not even caring. He doesn't know what time it is.
Yeah.
Nailed on us.
9 o'clock somewhere for him.
That's right.
Yes. So, a decent amount of experience with genetic heart disorders in my family, and then also friends' family and that kind of thing. So, hypoplastic left heart syndrome.
I know it.
Is in my family.
No left ventricle.
Yep.
Yeah.
My brother would be 40. Math is hard. 45. So he was 2 days old when he was diagnosed with that, and then my daughter also had it. And so somebody said that there's no word for a grieving parent. So like a childless or a parentless child is an orphan, or you have widows, but there's no word for a parent who has lost a child. There's nothing to describe it because the pain is so great. There's just nothing that can explain it. But at the same time, I've met some of the most amazing people who have shared that type of experience. So it's the worst club to be in, but the best people are in it.
We call it the Sad Parents Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually think that there's no word because we don't really ever accept that our kid is dead. I don't ever let people stop talking about her. Like I said, she is a very active member of our family. You don't ever let it's not just her memory alive. It is Jillian is alive in our family. I do not think that there's a word because I think so many people, when you give birth to that baby, or when you adopt that baby, or when you're the stepfather of that baby, when you give your entire love to that baby, that's it. All it is love, no matter if they're alive or they're dead. There is no word for this or that. They're just your baby.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take another break, but what we do here, Amy, is we ask what we call the sponsored question of the pod. Sure. This is from Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. But we're gonna take a little bit of part of your book and make it kind of fun, if we can, because there is some humor in your book that you've said. So I'm gonna give you the question. We'll get an ad from Kyle, and when we come back, we'll get your answer. Since your dad had Leoisms, which is what you referenced to in your notes that you gave me, are there any Amy-isms that your family or friends would repeat about you? And if so, what would they be? So think about your answer. Okay. We'll get a word from Kyle Lehman, and then we'll be back with my very dear friend, Amy Blair.
Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment assistance. Before you reach out to a realtor, call Kyle and get pre-qualified, empowering you to start shopping for the home of your dreams. Call Kyle at 515-473-0000 515-473-0546. Kyle Lehman Wintrust Mortgage, 515-473-0546.
All right, and we're back. And before we took a break, and we asked Amy, her dad had Leoisms, so surely there are some Amyisms, and if so, what would your family and friends say they are?
So I definitely have stories, that I tell all the time. And my dad would be like the kind of guy that you would be like, I went up to him one time and I was like, Dad, I lost 63 pounds. And he was like, good for you. Now you only got 63 pounds left to go. So I was just asking him, like, what do I do? And they said, and this is true, this is things that I do. Even like I write and I'm descriptive and everything. I'm always like, the wind is so windy. This is what I'll tell my family. The snow is so snowy. Why is everything so cold? It's just like I don't ever use good words to describe things. And then my dad would always like try to use like the Beagles, like I now have that gene. And like even like talking to you guys tonight, like I've been like, what is that word? I know that I'm not using it right, but even like I will say like, sophisticated, but I will say it like not sophisticated. It'll come out a completely different word. These are just like, I'm becoming more like him when I speak, that I don't speak my real word. Yeah, Amy isn't, she is Leo's daughter. It is true though.
You're becoming an old man is what you're saying.
I'm becoming an old lady. And I always go like this. I am an old lady now. I have my Werther's Originals and my tweezers inside my purse.
Hey, I'm the oldest guy
old lady
in my
strength.
office, and I eat two Werther's Originals every day at my desk.
They're so good for you.
They're
so good for
awesome.
your heart.
Yeah, they're my
It's
favorite.
refreshing. People do not give enough credit to those.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, this has been awesome. I like everything's kind of, I know, coming to an end. I did just, also want to say that now that we've kind of, ended, the book is coming out, all these things are happening, I am in heart failure. And so I was told in March, I knew that I was getting sick in October. I knew something was wrong with me and I couldn't quite place it. And in March, I did a series of tests and it came back, and I went to the University of Iowa. I did all these tests. I thought I did amazing. I was like, I rock. I can't believe how easy that was. I drove back home to Des Moines, got home, and that afternoon, my doctors called me and they were just like, we had no idea you were this sick. And I was just like, oh, am I? And they were like, Amy, we have to refer you to the heart transplant center. And they were like, this probably doesn't surprise you. No, this really surprises me. And since then, since I have started this process, I am now, I finished my testing. I have been listed on the heart transplant list. I am still good enough to stay home, but I don't want to be dramatic, but like every day I feel it's like the slide next to Jill's body. I feel a little bit more of a slide, and I feel a little bit more of a slide. I did, have a sudden I've had a couple sudden cardiac arrests. I do have a defibrillator. It has saved my life. But I did have an arrest in May, and they lost me for a few seconds, 63 seconds. And I'm telling you, I was in an ambulance and they were placing the pads on me, and they were telling me, and I could literally feel like my soul was leaving. And they were like, we think you're going into VFib. And I went, oh, I know I am. And I thought in that moment, like, one, I was shocked at how quiet it was. Two, I was shocked at how easy it was to just close your eyes and just know that your heart has just stopped for over a minute. And three, I wasn't scared. There was no fear at all. I was sad. I was sad for Michael because I thought Mr. Blair is going to have to go on and he's going to have to go through all this pain again. Yeah. I didn't think about Katie or Rosie, but I thought if Jill can do it, I can do it. I can do this, and I will be okay on whatever happens next. And then I opened my eyes and I was back in the ambulance. So there is a lot, that we're still going through. I don't know what my future holds. I may or may not get a heart transplant, and my clock might run out. I don't know. So it's always every day, every night I go to sleep, I'm like, I hope I wake up in the morning. And then my alarm goes off and I'm like, no, I don't want to go to work. Why did I wake up? I said I didn't care if I didn't wake up. So, and then I'd live through the day to see if I can get to the night again. It's a lot of fun. It's a little race for myself all the time.
There you go. All right, we're going to wrap up this show. And what we do with this very final segment here, Amy, is Three Beards Media. One of the things that we do here that we work really hard at and are very passionate about is philanthropy and giving back to the community. So in the spirit of this, on a previous podcast, we had a guest who told one of the hosts, not me, to shut the fuck up because they wouldn't stop talking so that she could get her point across. And we thought it was so funny, we decided to make a sponsored segment in a way. Steph Copley, who was the guest at that time, is a very passionate person about the Young Women's Resource Center. So what we've decided to do is play a little ad and encourage people and listeners to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center. And then when we come back, Amy and I have to shut the fuck up and you can say whatever you want. But I feel like that's been the whole pod. So but that's okay. But this time you can talk any kind of shit you want. If you would like to take that opportunity to make fun of Rob for bailing on the interview, that's probably the appropriate time. And we will cut that clip for you as well. But let's get a word from Steph Copley about the great organization that is the Young Women's Resource Center. And then we'll come back with the STFU moment.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
All right. The floor is yet again yours.
All right. So really the last thing that I think I'd want to say is we do a scholarship for Jillian every year through the DMAC Foundation. And it is kind of supports kids that have vibes like her that want to go into design, who maybe were not A students throughout their academic years. We were ordinary parents prior to this, and now I call us extraordinary parents who have lost the kid. We're extraordinarily sad, but we're extraordinarily committed. And we all want to do what we feel is best for our own child and have their names said. Let other kids know that are coming up, let them read about her bio, know that where they're getting this scholarship money from. So we are really proud of the DMAC scholarship that we have through the foundation over there in Jill's name. And if you ever feel like, you're looking for a scholarship to donate to, there you go.
There you go. Perfect. Well, you're getting a lot of love in the comments here, as not surprising to me or to anybody that knows you. So
look at them all.
There you go.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time and being so open. It means a lot to me, Amy, for you coming on. For all of you that are new and listening, I hope you stick around and check out the rest of Old Man Strength and the other podcasts that we have. We've got something for everybody. Amy, you said you worked at the Funny Bone for years. I assume you know Willie Farrell.
I do know Willie, but I don't think Willie remembers me. I saw him at the clinic one day, and I was like, "Hi, Willie," and he was just like, "Hey."
Well, you should
I
check
do
out
adore
Willie.
him.
You should check out Billy and Willie's workshop. That's on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
It's them riffing for an hour and a half. It's usually the most non-PG rated show that we have.
And the funniest thing is that he and I just live around the corner from each other.
That is crazy. He's the mayor of that neighborhood.
I know. He is.
He is. So, but Amy, thank you for joining on so quickly. I appreciate it. You can check out the rest of the podcast at any of your podcast locations. Check out our YouTube channel, our new website at threebeardsmedia.com.
Yep.
And Amy, when's your book come out?
It comes out end of September. And by the way, it's called 7 Stars from all 7 of the people 7 Stars of Grief memoir. And
There you
so
go.
thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate all your time. And Amy, it was just a pleasure meeting you. You can
Yes,
be
you
Amy
too.
number 1. I'll give it back over to you.
There you go.
You
There
got
you
it.
go. Truly from the bottom of my heart, Amy, thank you so much. I really
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you guys. Thank you both.
All right,
Rob,
everybody. Thank you.
I love you, Revelton. You're disappointing me. Last time I was at Revelton, it was Christy. I had to hug Christy.
Oh, Christy gives the best hugs.
She does. She does it with her
I
entire.
know, she
everything.
actually cares. Rob is just a fake hugger. I
Yeah,
think.
he's just like me. But she's just like you may as well wrap her little legs and everything around you and just carry her around like she's a
Let's not get
backpack.
ridiculous. All right, here we go.
All right, it was.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And with that, we are out.
Old man strength, built to last. Try to break me, you won't get past. Ain't no quit, ain't no doubt. You don't know tough till you've been worn